It started with those flashing red and blue lights bouncing off the calm water of my lake. Picture that, a slice of heaven lit up like a crime scene, and me standing there in boots, holding a fishing pole, trying to figure out if I'd wandered into some kind of TV prank or just my new, everyday nightmare. 2 cop cars screeched up by my driveway, sirens screaming, neighbors peeking out their windows. And there, strutting like a rooster with a perm, was Karen. Yeah, the Karen, pointing at me like I'd just robbed the neighborhood bank. She's blocking HOA board access to the community lake. Karen was practically foaming at the mouth, voice bouncing off mailboxes. That lake doesn't belong to her alone. She's being selfish and violating HOA rules. Except, here's the kicker, that lake was mine. Bought and paid for, right there on the deed. My name, no fine print, no shared access, just my little patch of peace and quiet. The officers looked at me, then at Karen, then back at me again, like they were waiting for me to pull out a bazooka or maybe just a really big attitude. One of them finally asked, "Ma'am, is this true? Are you denying the HOA access to this body of water?" My mouth was dry, but I managed to say, "Yes, because this is my lake. It's private property." Karen came stomping up, waving a stack of papers like she was slapping a warrant on my forehead. "Don't listen to her. That lake is ours. She thinks she's above the rules. Arrest her if you have to." The cops bent over her documents, their eyebrows doing a whole interpretive dance. My heart hammered. Some neighbors hung back, arms folded, faces lit up like they'd scored front-row tickets to a reality show. Karen went on, "If you don't do something, officer, I'll have the whole HOA board down here to force her out." The tension hung thick, nobody blinking, the night suddenly not so peaceful. And just like that, my life flipped. But you know what? Let me back up a second, because none of this started with sirens and HOA wars. 3 years before, I was just another person dreaming of land, working overtime, stashing away every penny. When I finally got my hands on those 10 acres, rolling hills, woods, and that little freshwater lake in the middle, I thought I'd made it. Fixed up the old cabin myself, hauled brush, painted walls, cut grass. Simple, honest work. Waved at neighbors, learned their kids' names. Life was good. Then there was Karen. She didn't even live on my street, but somehow decided the entire neighborhood needed her iron grip. You know the type, measuring your grass with a ruler, calling meetings if your truck had a scratch, dropping snide notes if your porch didn't look like a magazine. I tried to keep it cordial, just a smile, a wave, don't make waves. But the day she realized my property line wrapped around that whole lake, her eyes glittered like she'd struck oil. One night she showed up at my door, smile fake as plastic. "So you've got quite the lake out back. Gorgeous, really. Don't you think it'd be nice to share it with the community? After all, that's only fair. A lake like that shouldn't belong to just one person." I shook my head. "Sorry, but it's private property. It's not part of the HOA. Her smile cracked a little. "Oh, I'll have to double-check that. Everything here belongs under the HOA's management. It's for everyone's good." I handed her my deed. Her eyes narrowed. I should have known right then she'd never let it go. Weeks passed. Suddenly, I spotted HOA board members lingering near my fence, kids I didn't know splashing in my lake. Put up, "No trespassing" signs, which only made Karen angrier. Next thing I knew, she was spreading rumors. She's selfish. She's hoarding the lake. She doesn't care about community spirit. Anonymous letters in my mailbox, threats of fines, even trash dumped on my driveway. But I held firm. I wasn't letting some self-crowned queen snatch away what I'd bled for. Then came that night, the night she called the cops. I still remember her screech echoing over the water, cops squinting at her paperwork, neighbors watching from their lawns. And in that moment, as everyone waited for my next move, I realized this was just the beginning. You ever have one of those moments where you know your life's about to split into before and after? Yeah, that happened. Karen's antics escalated the next day. Hammering at the edge of my land, she and her cronies were building a sign, "HOA Community Lake, open access for residents." I nearly choked. "What do you think you're doing?" She shrugged, swinging a hammer. "If the HOA says the lake's community property, then it is. That's illegal. You're trespassing." She smirked. "Then take us to court." The other board members looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, but nobody stopped her. So I pulled out my phone. "Fine. I'll call the sheriff." Karen just smiled. "Go ahead. I'll just explain you're harassing the HOA. She wanted this fight. And the worst part? She wasn't doing it for the community. She wanted to prove nobody could say no to her. 20 minutes later, sheriff's deputy rolled up. Karen started her whole performance again, voice sugary sweet. Officer, we're just doing our duty as the HOA board. The lake belongs to the neighborhood. I handed over my deed, hands shaking. The deputy read it, nodded, then turned to Karen. Ma'am, the HOA doesn't override private property law. You and your board members are trespassing. Remove the sign. Karen's jaw hit the ground. You're taking her side? I'm taking the side of the law. The board pulled up the sign. Karen stormed off, but not before hissing. You haven't seen the last of me. You know what I mean? There's always one more act in a Karen saga. For a while, it went quiet, too quiet. I tried to enjoy my garden, but I could feel eyes on me in town. Then the letter started. Failure to provide access will result in fines. Your property is subject to HOA authority whether you like it or not. At first, I laughed. But after the third threat, it stopped being funny. Some neighbors started siding with her. I couldn't blame them. Who wouldn't want a free lake? But right's right. One day, Mrs. Green, sweet lady, always baking, showed up with cookies, told me not everyone agreed with Karen. We talked about gardens and the old days before the HOA went nuts. It helped, for a minute. Then I found bags of trash dumped in my driveway. And tucked inside, a piece of mail addressed to Karen. She'd done it herself. I could have called the sheriff again, but it was clear this wasn't about a lake. It was war. Next morning, I woke up to a scene straight out of a bad comedy. Karen and half the HOA camped out by my lake, folding chairs, coolers, fishing rods, kids splashing. Welcome to the neighborhood's first annual HOA Lake Festival. Everyone's invited except her. The crowd cheered, looking at me like I was the outsider. My voice shook, but I shouted, "You're trespassing, every single one of you. This is private property." Karen just grinned. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. You can't hoard a whole lake." I called the sheriff. Again, the same mustached deputy showed up, told everyone to leave. Karen refused until the deputy warned her she was one step from a trespassing charge. As she left, she hissed, "You think you've won? You're fighting the whole HOA now." Then came the legal letters, $500 a day fines, threats to put a lien on my house. I called the sheriff. "It's civil now, ma'am. You'll need a lawyer." The dread was real, but so was my stubbornness. I hired a lawyer, started collecting every scrap of evidence. Some neighbors kept their distance. Others quietly told me they were rooting for me. Karen, meanwhile, was just ramping up. Then one day, 3 tow trucks rolled up. Karen, board in tow, brandished a megaphone. "We are seizing property to cover your debt, starting with your vehicles." I felt sick as the tow drivers hooked up my truck. I shouted, "This is illegal." Karen sneered, "Prove it in court." I called the sheriff again. When the deputies arrived, they shut the whole show down, threatened the HOA with charges if they tried again. But then, the calm before the next storm. Friday morning, I found a bright yellow court summons nailed to my porch. HOA versus me. They were suing me, claiming the lake was community property. My hands shook as I called my lawyer. He said I had a strong case, but warned me. HOAs know how to drag things out. The court date came. Karen arrived dressed for battle, flanked by her board, her lawyer spinning a tale about how I was disrupting the harmony of the community. My lawyer calmly handed over the deed, property maps, sheriff's reports. When it was my turn, I told the judge my story, about saving for this land, about the harassment, about how this wasn't about a lake. It was about not letting a bully win. The judge was all business. She reviewed every paper, then declared the lake was entirely my property. The HOA had no claim. All fines invalid. Any further harassment, subject to legal penalties. Karen's face went white. The judge added, "I strongly advise the HOA to reconsider its approach or risk serious consequences." Outside, Karen spat. "This isn't the end." I just looked her in the eye. Maybe it's time the HOA learned what boundaries mean. Weeks passed. The letters stopped. The trash disappeared. Neighbors started waving again. Mrs. Green brought me more cookies, told me she was proud. I spent long afternoons on the lake, fishing pole in hand, thinking about what I'd fought for. My peace. My dignity. The right to stand up and say no. That's what bullies never understand. Truth is, the scars remain. I still flinch when I see Karen's car, still double-check my mailbox for threats. But sitting by my lake at sunset, water golden, breeze soft, I know I did the right thing. If you ever face your own HOA Karen, remember this: the law's on your side. Bullies only win if you give in. Stand your ground. Protect what's yours. Your peace is worth fighting for. The lake is quiet tonight. Mine, always mine. And whatever Karen or the HOA tries next, one truth won't change: I won. So what would you have done? Where are you watching from? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what real justice looks like.